From ESC, we've got Mr. Williams, principal of Carmel High School, Mr. Ferris, principal, I think, Orchard Park, a number of counselors and administrators, my business chair's back here. So we have a lot of people. We have our students. And I want to thank you all for coming, basically to acknowledge the accomplishments of these students that are so involved in the community. They've been putting in a lot of hours working to repurpose computers and basically help people within our own school district and also within the community. Just to give you a little bit of information about Carmel Connects, the students meet, a lot of the students meet every week in my classroom, open up the computers, do what they need to do, install software, preparing them for others to use them. Some of our students actually work at the Net Literacy Repurposing Center that's here in Carmel, and some of those kids I don't even see all the time. We've got a few kids that actually work on PowerPoints for Safe Connects. We've got other students that go to assisted or independent living facilities, set up computers, teach those senior citizens how to use them, how to use the software, how to access the internet. And then our latest accomplishment that I'm real proud of too, thanks to Bright House Networks, we've got 3 students that were involved recording some public service announcements, and they're going to show those to you in a little bit. Very professional public service announcements. There are a number of people here today that are going to recognize our students. The very first person I'd like to introduce is the Mayor of Carmel, the Honorable James Brainerd.
Thanks. Thanks very much. It's nice to be here today because this is such an exciting... Now, why is this? I'm looking out here at the audience, and all the grown-ups are on this side, and all the kids are on this side. And I guess that's really what I want to talk about a little bit in terms of Net Literacy Project, especially as it's focused on older folks, is that you've been able to bridge this somewhat natural divide, you know, where the kids sit on one side and the adults sit on the other. And it's been a wonderful thing to watch the initiation for this program come from students, young students, as I recall. When you guys first contacted me, I think, is it junior high? What year were you? 8th grade? 7th or 8th grade? Yeah, it's been a while. Because I had to stop and think, are these guys still in high school or are they in college by now? But next year. I want to talk a little bit about volunteerism and how important it is as a part of our form of government, our republic. Any of you heard of a Frenchman named Alex de Tocqueville? You have? Democracy in America? Yeah, that's it. When was that book published, do you know?
Oh, I don't quite remember, but I think it came over during the 18th century.
Late 1700s, early 1800s, I think. And this was at the time, you know, right after our revolution against England to set up a republic. I always get after people saying, well, we live in democracy. Well, not really, you know, it's back in that Pledge of Allegiance saying we live in a republic, which means representative government. And you know, for instance, going through their revolution was about to, were 2 brothers who were elected, I believe one, who were aristocrats. And they came over to study what we had done. And you can read Democracy in America. And it was really a report on how this first republic of democracy had been set up and how it was working back to France, because we had taken a lot of ideas from Rousseau, if you recall, as well as John Locke and Emerson. But these ideas were popular among the aristocrats in Europe, but they hadn't gotten this far yet. So they wanted to see how it was working. And so he wrote this book. They traveled all around the United States. He wrote this book about democracy in America. But one of his key points in that book was the spirit of volunteerism in the young United States compared to Europe. In Europe, they had this history of everything's going to be done by the government. People really, the average person doesn't have a stake in their government. And he contrasted that to the young United States, where people thought, this is our government, this is our country, we're going to make it, we're all going to work to make it better. And he talked about this, he used the word fervor, in fact, of volunteerism in the United States and how it was so different from the European experience. And I think that's continued today, it's exemplified by what you guys have done. You go fast forward a couple years, fast forward is starting to be an they're trying to net literate cliche anymore, that we don't fast forward things, it just finds it, right? But go forward a couple hundred years, remember, some of you will remember this, barely, when the current president's father was in office, H.W. Bush, he started a program called 1,000 Points of Light. And he focused on the good that could be done in this country, and is done every day in this country, by volunteers, by how volunteers really do so much in the United States that would have to be done by government in other places. And it's because of this feeling of ownership that's been here really, if you believe and read de Tocqueville, for a couple hundred years. So I think this is, it's important to put this in perspective about how this makes the United States different. And what you've done is a perfect example of something that's really improved our community, made it a much better place, helped bridge this back when I was your age, we had this term called generation gap. And so that's going to slip out. But really going a couple generations back and initiating this with some of the elderly in our community has been a wonderful thing as you've looked at donations of computers and other things to people that might not be able to otherwise afford them. That's a wonderful thing too. So I want to recognize Morgan Young and Sachin Sanakumar for what they've done, and all the others that have, I know Will Petrovic has been involved as a board member, but what you've done with this program is truly amazing and should be complimented, and you've got my compliments for it. We are going to get a proclamation. I don't have it with me today. We have a proclamation that's going to be sent over that'll be something to keep. When you guys are older, you can show people. My hat's off to you, and it's a wonderful example, and just one more reason it's great to live in the United States, and particularly in Carmel, because of efforts like this that I see coming from everyone. I think the junior high school students came up with this idea and have followed it through for 5-6 years now. Is a wonderful thing. We should thank their teachers and administrators too for encouraging this, and your parents. But we're very proud of you, and thanks for asking me to be here today to share it with you too. So.
On behalf of the Carmel High School students in net literacy, we'd like to present you with this letter of appreciation.
And if I may, can I read the last paragraph of this
Sure.
out loud? You took a chance on us, perhaps in part because you were also embraced community service as a youth and achieved the honor of earning the rank of Eagle Scout. With your support and encouragement, net literacy student volunteers have been empowered and are making a difference in Carmel and throughout Indiana. Thank you for believing in us.
Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you. You want to get a picture of all of us here?
All right.
Yeah, let's get, here, I'll get in the middle. You guys, we'll do it like this. There we go.